TinkerCAD tips. In this series of tutorials, I'm going to go over some multicolor printing and show you a couple of different ways of doing multicolor prints. But this is probably going to be a 2 or possibly 3-part tutorial because I'm sort of limited to 10 minutes here. So I'm going to go over the different ways, but I'm going to lay the background here for what I've put together. So essentially, I just made this bowling pin because this is a good example with these red and white stripes. And I did this with different shapes and objects in TinkerCAD. You can see here if I ungroup this that there's different parts here. And I grouped them together. And now, because there are so many sides to these, because I wanted it to be fairly smooth, I don't want to be working with this particular object in this way. So I had union grouped them, and it takes a moment to resolve, exported that as an STL file, and then re-imported that into this. So this copy of it here, and you can see it looks a little bit rougher, but you still get the basic idea. This will just be easier to work with. And then what I did is I then took this shape and I developed 2 different ways of doing multicolor print. This one over here, although it looks multicolor, if I export this as an STL, that color information won't be in it. The only way you'd be able to print this multicolor is in your slicer by adding filament change at layer commands and then swapping white, red, etc. Okay? There's another way of doing this. That's AMS compatible for a Prusa or a bamboo printer, where you actually have separate objects. And if you export this as an OBJ file, you can then assign different filament spools in your AMS to the different colors or the different portions of the model. You see here I have this bundle grouped. If I unbundle that, it's actually also a series of parts, okay? And I've just aligned them together, selected them, and did a union grouping here. But when I go to export that, I would say OBJ, and the file that you get is much different. All right, so today I want to focus on how I made this multicolored object. So let me kind of move all of these things out of the way here. I'm going to start by getting a copy of this STL version here. Bring that out. Let's come in a bit here. Now the first thing I want to do is start creating a series of white and red boxes that'll represent the colors in a bowling pin. So I'm going to start with the square here. Let's go ahead and change that to the color white. We're going to slide it in here, and then I'm going to enlarge it a bit to make sure it goes all the way around this bowling pin. Let's bring it out here a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to bring this up to about the height where I want that white to end. Say just about there. Let's go ahead and shift nudge this over so we can see the bowling pin. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on this white one. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate it. I'm going to click W and put the work plane on top. I'm going to hit D to drop. So now we have this second object. I'm going to make it red, and then I'm going to change the height of it to represent a stripe. Make it a little bit lower there. Let's get our snap grid here at 0.1. Okay. Same thing again. I'm going to click on that red one. I'm going to hit Control D, W to do the work plane, set it there, D to drop. I'm going to set that one to be white. Same thing again, Control D. We have this one that did the same thing. Let's turn it red. Control D again. This will be our final white part. Make that white. Let's lift this up. There we go. W, put it back on the default work plane. Let's go ahead and shift nudge this bowling pin out of here for a moment. All right, now I'm going to select all of those objects. I'm going to union group those together. And then I want to make sure that this is set to multicolor. So we have that. All right, now we need to make sort of a cookie cutter of this bowling pin. So for that, I'm going to bring out, for now, a hole shape here. So I can kind of see what I'm doing here. And I want to make this larger than this box over here. So let's use it as our reference. Okay, it's larger. Bring it back over here. Now what I want to do is to make this one solid. So heck, we'll just call it red. I'm going to take this bowling pin here and make it a hole. I'm going to select on this. I'm going to drag it up so that it's taller than that bowling pin. Okay, now I'm going to select the two of those. I'm going to do a quick alignment. That direction, that direction. Now I'm going to select on those two, and you can't see the bowling pin inside. It is there. You see right here I have two shapes. I'm going to union group those together. Then I'm going to turn that into a hole shape. Now we're going to take that hole shape, shift select this other box here. Let's do a quick alignment. In this direction, in this direction. I'm going to select those two and do a union group. And there you have it. Now, bear in mind, this is a single object, and if I export it as an STL, that color information will not be in it. I'll show you. I'm going to click Export here, STL, Save File. We're going to call this Multicolor Bowling Pin 2. I don't want to overwrite the one that I have. All right, now let's jump over into that folder and take a look at that STL. See right here, Multicolor Bowling Pin 2. And if you look at the preview here, it's just the mesh. There's no information here about the colors. This particular model, you would need to do filament change at layer commands in the specific places in order to get these red and white bands. So although it is multicolored here in TinkerCAD, the STL that it would create would not be multicolored. So just bear that in mind. So this is the end of part 1. We're at about a little over 8 minutes here. So come back and join me for part 2 of this, and I'll show you how to make the version that is actually multiple objects that are multicolored, or you can save that color information and export it to an AMS so you don't have to do the filament change at layer. As always, like, follow, repost, comment, of course, if you have questions about this or have something that I've missed, drop those in the comments. If you have ideas for other TinkerCAD tips tutorials, drop me a DM. All right, catch you in the next one for part 2.